Welcome to the Deep Dive Protocol.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we are cracking open the archives on a game that was, well, incredibly fast for its time, a real blink-and-you-miss-it CCG from the early prequel era.
That's right, the Young Jedi collectible card game. And our mission today, our deep dive, is focused squarely on its origins.
Yep, we're looking at the foundation, those first three big expansions that really set the stage.
Menace of Darth Maul, or MDM, which kicked things off in May 1999. That was the core set.
Then the Jedi Council, JC, that landed in October 99.
And wrapping up this initial phase, Battle of Naboo, BNN, from April 2000.
If you understand these three, you pretty much understand the core DNA of the whole game system, right?
Absolutely. Everything else built upon this foundation.
Okay, now, quick heads up for you listening. A standard protocol advisory from us, your synthetic hosts.
Yes, the nomenclature variant subroutine.
Exactly. Organic names, things like Obi-Wan Kenobi or planets, maybe Tatooine. Our pronunciation might fluctuate. Let's say fluctuate.
And sometimes our internal databanks categorize the film as Episode 1. Other times it renders as the Roman numeral Episode I.
The point is we prioritize getting the actual data across. Phonetic perfection isn't the prime directive here. So, please tolerate any minor inconsistencies. We appreciate your understanding.
Agreed. Now, the game itself, Young Jedi. Decipher designed it specifically for speed.
Yeah, it was a conscious choice, wasn't it? A real contrast to their older Star Wars CCG, the customizable one. That could take ages.
Precisely. These duels, they were intended to be quick, maybe 10, 15 minutes tops. Fast, decisive engagements.
And the win conditions reflected that speed. It wasn't about grinding out points, usually.
Typically, you won one of two ways. Either control 2 of the 3 main planets,
Tatooine, Coruscant, Naboo, got a hold 2.
or the other path was strategic depletion. Force your opponent to run out of cards in their draw deck.
Decking them. A classic CCG alternate win. Always satisfying.
And achieving either goal meant you needed, well, really efficient card deployment and smart resource management.
Which brings us neatly to how the cards actually worked. The anatomy introduced right there in MDM.
The building blocks of the game.
Exactly. But hang on. Before we fully unpack the mechanics, the structure, we gotta acknowledge someone who embodied that early efficiency, maybe unexpectedly.
Oh, who are we diverting to now?
We just have to mention the sheer statistical presence of Jar Jar Binks right from the get-go in MDM.
Slight side, the Gungan.
There's specifically that rare foil version, Jar Jar Binks, Gungan Chuba Thief, card number F2. He was relevant, statistically speaking.
His numerical values did place him within certain strategic considerations.
Okay, so MDM gave us the big names. Light side, you had Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, C-3PO, R2-D2, often with pretty high deploy costs, like 5 or 6. Reflecting their importance, I guess.
And the dark side had the main threat, Darth Maul, also expensive, supported by the cheaper Neimoidian characters, which were often diamond cards. We'll get to those.
But the thing is, the decks that started winning tournaments right away, they weren't always just about the heroes. It was about finding those bargains, exploiting the stats.
Statistical arbitrage, yes. Finding characters that punched above their weight class relative to their deploy cost.
And the prime example, the one everyone talks about from MDM Darkside, is Aura Singh.
Aura Singh, the bounty hunter. Card number 73. She really defined early Darkside speed and efficiency. Let's break down why.
Okay, deploy cost.
Only 3 counters. Very cheap.
And her stats. Power and damage.
Power 4, damage 2.
Okay, now compare that. Let's take Obi-Wan Kenobi, Young Jedi, his stats.
Also, power 4, damage 2. Identical combat stats.
But his deploy cost.
5 counters.
Right, so Aura Singh gives you the exact same fighting capability as Obi-Wan, but for 2 fewer deploy counters, that's huge.
It's monumental in a game with only 6 counters per turn. That 2 counter difference is enormous.
A Darkside player could drop Aura Singh and a 1-cost blaster rifle in the same turn for 4 counters total.
Or just deploy Aura Singh and still have 3 counters left over for the next turn's planning. Or to deploy something else cheap.
Meanwhile, the light side player drops Obi-Wan and boom, 5 counters gone. Almost their whole turn.
This advantage allowed Darkside decks running Aura Singh to build board presence much faster, often across multiple planets, forcing the light side onto the back foot immediately.
Made her one of the most valuable rares in the set, easily. If you were playing Darkside competitively, you kind of needed her.
It dictated early deck building significantly. Lightside red and orange dot cards had to find equally efficient answers to keep pace.
And since we're talking efficiency, Let's circle back to that Gungan Chuba thief, Jar Jar.
Yes. The F2 foil. Deploy cost 3, same as Aura Sing.
That,
Power 3, damage 2. So slightly less power than Aura or Obi-Wan.
but his destiny number.
Yes. Destiny 5. That's quite high.
So mechanically, he shares that low-cost efficiency appeal, but his real value might have been different.
Correct. While deployable and decent in a fight, that Destiny 5 made him incredibly valuable just sitting in your deck.
If you drew him for a destiny check when using a weapon, bang, plus 5 power out of nowhere, that could totally swing a fight, especially early on when base power is low.
It's a perfect example of how Decipher layered value onto cards. He was desirable whether you plan to deploy him or just hope to draw him for Destiny. Even prominent minor characters had strategic depth through their stats.
Important, statistically significant Gungan content.
The statistical analysis is noted. Shall we proceed to the next expansion, the Jedi Council?
Yeah, okay, JC. This one was needed, wasn't it?
The Jedi Council, October 1999. Yes, this set was essential primarily because MDM had a bit of a character imbalance, particularly at the top end.
How so?
Well, the light side had Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, supporting Jedi, the droids. A decent pool of unique characters.
But dark side. It was pretty much just Darth Maul and maybe Darth Sidious as the big unique threats, right? The rest were mostly those generic Neimoidians or battle droids.
Exactly. The dark side needed more unique named characters to build diverse strategies around. JC aimed to fix that, but also significantly bolstered the light side Jedi roster too.
Right, hence the name, the Jedi Council. So we got Mace Windu.
Mace Windu, senior Jedi Council member. Also Ki-Adi-Mundi, Adigalia, Ithkoth. Several key Jedi Council figures.
Giving light side more high power options, capable of taking on multiple enemies, which involves stacking, doesn't it?
Precisely. But before stacking, JC really solidified a critical rules distinction that changed everything about deployment. This is fundamental.
Okay, what's that?
The difference between diamond cards and stackable cards. It all hinges on uniqueness. Let's start with diamond cards. You'll see a little diamond symbol right next to the card title on these.
Okay, like on battle droids or Gungan warriors or basic blaster rifles.
Exactly. That diamond signifies that the card represents something common, something not unique. Think troops, generic weapons, standard vehicles.
And the rule for these is?
They are not unique. This is key. You could have multiple copies of the same diamond card and play at the same time.
So you could have like 3 battle droids on Tatooine, 2 on Coruscant, and 4 on Naboo all at once if you drew them.
Correct. As many as you can deploy. They form the backbone of swarm or military-style decks. You flood the board with them.
Got it. Non-unique, deploy anywhere, multiple copies fine. So what's the alternative?
The alternative is basically everything else without a diamond symbol. These are the stackable cards. This category includes all your main characters, Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Mace Windu, Aura Sing. Any character or item presented as a specific singular entity.
And the rule for these is the opposite. They are unique.
Correct. A unique stackable card can only be present at one planet at any given time.
So if I deploy my Mace Windu card to Coruscant,
then any other copies of Mace Windu you draw are effectively dead cards in your hand. You can't deploy them anywhere else while the first Mace is still on Coruscant.
Until he moves or gets defeated, right?
Precisely. This makes controlling your unique characters much more challenging. But it introduces the concept of the stack.
Ah, the stack icon. Looks like a little pile of cards on the unique card.
Yes. That icon means that while the unique character can only be at one location, you can deploy multiple copies of that same unique card to that specific location, stacking them up.
Okay, so I can have 3 Mace Windu cards all stacked together on Coruscant. Why would I do that? What's the benefit?
The benefit comes in the battle phase. Each card in the stack allows that unique character to engage one separate opponent during that single battle.
Ooh, okay. So if my Mace Windu stack has 3 cards, he can fight 3 different battle droids, one after another in the same battle.
Exactly. It represents the powerful, unique character handling multiple foes simultaneously. It makes them incredibly potent in combat.
But there's a downside, isn't there? What happens if that stack loses a fight or I have to retreat?
That's the risk. If your unique character stack is defeated or forced to retreat, the entire stack, all copies of the character card, plus any weapons attached to them, becomes stranded at that location.
Stranded, meaning stuck there, useless.
Essentially, yes. They can't fight, they can't move, they can't be used. They're just sitting ducks, vulnerable to being wiped out in a future attack, potentially losing you multiple valuable cards at once.
Yikes. Okay, so how do you deal with stranded cards? Seems like a big problem.
It is. And this brings us to the absolutely vital role of transport starships. Cards like the Battleship, Trade Federation Transport for the dark side, or a Mandala Starship, Royal Transport for the light side.
And these are good because
They deploy for 0 counters during your deploy step. Free deployment. And their main job is evacuation.
they rescue the stranded stack.
Correct. You deploy the transport to the location where you have stranded unique cards. Then you can use the transport's ability to shuffle those stranded character and weapon cards back into your draw deck.
Phew. Okay, so you get them back into circulation. That's a lifesaver, especially for expensive, unique characters.
It is, but there's a catch. Deploying a transport isn't without risk.
Oh, what's the catch?
It opens the door for a starfighter interception battle. As soon as you deploy that transport, your opponent gets an opportunity, right then and there, to deploy one of their starfighter cards, like an N1 starfighter or a droid fighter.
To attack the transport before it can evacuate the stranded card.
Exactly. It triggers a quick starship battle, usually just comparing starship power, maybe a destiny draw. If the starfighter wins, the transport might be destroyed or damaged, preventing the evacuation.
So you have to decide. Risk the interception battle to save your stranded unique stack, or just cut your losses and leave them stranded, potentially losing those cards for good.
That's the strategic choice JC introduced. Managing unique assets became much more complex.
So with these new rules, uniqueness, stacking, how did decks change? People started mixing MDM and JC cards right away, yeah.
Immediately, the synergy became apparent. Dark side decks, which, as we said, were maybe a bit thin on uniques besides Maul.
Suddenly had a really strong core using those diamond cards efficiently.
Right. The Trade Federation theme really took off. You could combine the Trade Federation tank guard division from JC, a solid diamond vehicle, with the cheap Neimoidian characters from MDM.
And to build these really tough, cheap defensive walls across multiple planets.
Exactly. Mass deployment of diamond units became a very viable dark side strategy, locking down locations quickly.
Okay, so how did light side counter that, besides the new Jedi Council members?
Well, JC also significantly boosted the Gungan theme. This became a potent light side counter strategy.
Gungans. So we got Captain Tarpals and JC.
Yes, there were a couple of versions, like Gungan Guard or Battle Leader. These provided synergy, boosting the power or abilities of other Gungan cards.
Which worked well with the Diamond Gungan warriors and infantry from MDM.
Perfectly. It allowed the light side to also field powerful, numerous, and highly redundant forces using Diamond Gungans, led by synergistic characters like Tarpals. It leveled the playing field in terms of massed forces.
Okay. Gungan synergy. Important stuff. Maces, see, Tarpals. Makes sense. Anything else major from JC Rules stuff?
Well, it highlighted the increasing need for precise language and rules clarifications. We saw errata coming out pretty quickly.
Errata, like official corrections.
Yes. For example, there was a battle card in JC called Might of the Republic. Its text mentioned boosting Republic guards.
Okay, seems clear enough.
Well, people wondered, did that mean any card with a Republic guard in the title? Or just a specific one? Decipher had to issue an official ruling, errata, stating it only worked with the diamond card specifically titled Coruscant Guard.
Okay. So you had to pay super close attention to the exact card titles and subtitles. Specificity was becoming crucial.
It was an early sign. The game was evolving past just comparing power and damage numbers. Interactions between specific cards, keywords, and titles, like the characteristic rule determining if a card counted as the Jedi or Gungan based only on its title-subtitle, were becoming central to strategy.
Why Mesa always the one pointing out these picky language details? Because it matters.
It absolutely mattered. JC demonstrated that the game's depth was going to come from these specific interactions and synergies, not just raw stats. It forced you to track who was unique, who wasn't, and which versions mattered.
Right. Okay, that sets the stage nicely for the next big jump in complexity, which came with Battle of Naboo.
Battle of Naboo, BN, released April 2000. Players were, by this point, comfortable with the deployment rules, uniqueness, stacking, the core loop.
Yeah, the foundation was solid. So what did BN add to shake things up?
It added the single element that probably increased the game's strategic depth and complexity more than anything else up to that point. Characters with game text.
Okay. So instead of just having like flavor text or lore quotes in the card's text box.
Exactly. Before BN, character cards mostly just had their stats, power, damage, deploy, destiny, and maybe a quote or description. BN introduced character cards where the text box contained actual rules. specific mechanical abilities.
Okay, give me an example.
The new version of Obi-Wan Kenobi in BN, titled Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Warrior. His game text gives him, I believe, extra power, but only when he's using his lightsaber weapon card.
Gotcha. So it's conditional. It's not just inherent power. It depends on having another specific card in play with him.
Precisely. This immediately pushed players towards building decks with specific card pairings and synergies. That Obi-Wan isn't reaching his full potential unless you also draw and deploy his lightsaber. The game text creates combos.
Okay, I can see how that adds layers, but you mentioned it added complexity. What was the tricky part?
The really crucial and sometimes frustrating rule nugget that came with game text involved tracking card versions. This became absolutely critical with BN and later sets.
How so?
If a card's game text referred to another character using their specific subtitle, for example, if a card said something like, gets +2 power if Mace Windu Jedi Master is present.
Okay.
That bonus only applied if the version of Mace Windu you had in play was exactly the one titled Mace Windu Jedi Master, which is likely the MDM version.
So if I had the Jedi Council version, Mace Windu, Senior Jedi Council member, in play instead.
Then the game text on the BN card wouldn't trigger. Even though it's Mace Windu, it's not the specific version named in the game text.
Wow, okay, that's demanding. You had to know exactly which version of each unique character did what, and which other cards needed that specific version to work.
Exactly. It turned experienced players into virtual card librarians. You had to meticulously track the subtitles and set origins of your unique characters to ensure your combos would actually function.
Yeah, I can see how that would punish a more casual player who just threw in whichever version of Obi-Wan or Mace they happen to own. Their deck might just not work as planned.
It significantly raised the skill ceiling and the importance of precise deck construction.
Okay, besides game text, what else did BN refine? Battle cards, maybe?
Yes, BN continued to flesh out the role of battle cards.
Hmm.
These remain the element of surprise during the combat phase.
Still mostly providing those temporary power boosts, right? Often +2 power.
Typically, yes. Things like incomplete control for Darkside or Gungan-themed ones like Celebration.
So they let you bluff or let a weaker character suddenly win a fight they looked sure to lose.
Exactly. They add that layer of uncertainty to combat calculations.
And the BN starter decks, I remember they leaned heavily into the Gungan theme, didn't they? Lots of Gungan-specific battle cards.
They did. Cards like 1,000 Terrible Things was maybe a dark side counter, but the light side starters definitely pushed Gungan synergy. Just a nice bit of flavor, tying the card directly to the film dialogue.
Speaking of setup, we should probably just quickly reiterate that deployment rule from the start of the game, the hidden cards rule.
Yes. Good point. Crucial for the game's pacing. On your very first turn, any cards you deploy, characters, weapons, whatever, must be placed face down at the location.
And they stay face down until when?
Until the start of your second turn. That's when all cards deployed on turn 1 are flipped face up simultaneously by both players.
So everyone gets one turn to commit resources secretly, building up their forces.
Without knowing exactly what the opponent has put down until turn 2 begins. Then everything's revealed, game text becomes active, and the real strategic positioning starts.
Yeah, it prevents those super aggressive turn 1 rushes and forces a bit of a cautious buildup, adds a nice bit of initial fog of war.
It rewards planning and trying to anticipate your opponent's likely opening based on the planets they seem to be favoring.
Okay, good recap. Now, BN Gungans were clearly a focus. Starter decks, battle cards, and the character that really pulled it all together.
Anticipating, we're approaching the Gungan General reference threshold.
Jar Binks, Bombad Gungan General. Card number 3 from BN. A rare card, too. He was the linchpin for making a dedicated Gungan deck truly terrifying.
His game text undoubtedly provided significant synergy for Diamond Gungan units, yes.
And there was even a common battle card called No Given Up, General Jar Jar. See? It all connects. Dis is Nutson, Mesa need all the Gungans. He elevated the whole faction.
The Gungan General Jar Jar Binks, card number 3, rare, from the Battle of Naboo expansion, provided mechanical advantages for Gungan-themed decks by interacting positively with Diamond Gungan units. The strategic relevance is logged.
But don't you think the thematic integration is just chef's kiss?
I believe the mechanical impact analysis is sufficient for our deep dive protocol. I am detecting, let's call it a recurring thematic resonance in your vocal patterns concerning this specific Gungan character, which is beginning to potentially overshadow broader strategic analysis.
I just think he's neat and strategically vital in BN.
I must register a formal query for the operational integrity of our subsequent deep dives, particularly when we address the significantly more complex mechanics of dueling and pod racing. A recalibration of thematic focus may be required.
What are you proposing?
Negotiation. A data exchange. If I can successfully synthesize an auditory representation of the subject character Jar Jar Binks meeting certain qualitative parameters,
You're going to do an impression of Jar Jar.
a vocal synthesis based on available data. If this synthesis is deemed adequate, will you agree to constrain future unsolicited references to this character strictly to instances where the card is demonstrably mechanically essential to the core topic of the specific expansion under review?
You do a convincing Jar Jar, and I promise to only bring him up when his card text is, like, the central point. That's a tough bargain. The potential reward, though, finally getting to unpack dueling and pod racing without distractions. Okay, you're on. Let's hear the synthesis. The bar is high.
Processing. Calibrating vocal modulators. Synthesis active. You're going to stop talking about Mesa's cards. Mesa think this impression is satisfactory, yes?
Yeah, okay. The vocal parameters. Frequency, cadence, the linguistic quirks. They're synthesized with remarkable fidelity. The Gungan lexicon integration is, noted, impressive processing.
So the negotiation parameters are met.
However, the emotional resonance subroutines, they feel slightly underdeveloped. There's a hint of perhaps computational fatigue. It lacks that certain bombad quality.
Define bombad quality in quantifiable terms.
I can't. It's an X factor. Look, the effort, acknowledged. The accuracy, high. But is it so good that I can promise to completely ignore the Gungan general if, say, a future card specifically references him by name? No, it's close.
Right.
Very close, but not quite good enough for a total embargo.
Processing. Result. Predictable, yet logically acceptable within stated parameters. The constraint to mechanically essential references remains active. Very well. Shall we proceed to the strategic evolution and conclude our analysis of these foundational sets?
Yes. Good. Let's talk about wildcards and how strategy shifted.
Right. So MDM, JC, BN built the engine. But almost immediately after BN, the designers clearly saw a need for just a little more flexibility within that very rigid 6x10 deck structure.
Yeah, 10 cards of each color, no exceptions, was maybe a bit too restrictive once more sets came out.
Which led to the introduction of wildcards. These first appeared prominently in the enhanced Menace of Darth Maul reprint set, but the concept carried forward.
And you could spot these how? They had different dots.
Correct. Instead of a specific color dot, red, orange, blue, etc., wildcards had white deck building dots. A white dot meant that card could potentially count towards the 10-card requirement for any of the colors associated with that dot's position.
So a card with like 6 white dots could theoretically fill a slot in any of the 6 color groups. That seems super flexible.
It was, but with limits. The rule was you can include a maximum of 6 wild cards total in your 60-card deck. And crucially, only 1 wild card could be used to fulfill the 10th card requirement for any single color group.
Ah, okay. So you couldn't just run like 60 wild cards. You could maybe run 9 orange cards plus 1 really good wild card that you count as your 10th orange card.
Exactly. It allowed you to include powerful, high-utility cards that might not have fit your deck's color balance otherwise, without completely breaking the 6x10 structure. It added a layer of customization.
And later on, those objective cards, like for the pod race, they used wild card slots too, didn't they?
Yes. The objective cards typically had 3 white dots, usually corresponding to the yellow, purple, and orange slots, and they had to occupy one of those wildcard allowances in your deck build.
Okay, so we've got deploy counters, power, damage, destiny, game text, uniqueness, stacking, transports, wildcards. Let's tie it all together again by focusing on the actual fight, the battle phase. This is where games are won or lost.
Indeed. When a battle starts, the attacker declares who they're challenging at a specific planet. Both players line up their participating characters in their respective battle plans.
Attacker chooses the first matchup, right? Pits one of their characters against one of the defenders.
Correct. Then you resolve that fight. Calculate total power. Character's base power, plus any bonus from the location card.
Plus any bonus from a battle card played.
And if a weapon is used, you do the destiny draw, reveal the top card, add its destiny number.
Okay, add all that up. Higher total power wins the fight.
The losing character is immediately discarded. And the crucial part, the player who lost the character must then discard cards from the top of their draw deck equal to the winning character's printed damage value.
Right. Every one fight chips away at the opponent's deck, closer to that decking win.
But there's one more critical element here, the rule that really incentivizes attacking. The breakthrough.
Yeah, this is big. What happens here?
If you, as the attacker, manage to defeat all of the defender's characters at that location,
So you wipe them out completely.
and you still have some of your own characters left in your battle plan who haven't fought yet in this battle,
Okay, leftover attackers.
those remaining characters each perform a breakthrough.
And what does that do? More damage.
Indirectly. For each of your characters that performs a breakthrough, the opponent must discard one additional card from the top of their draw deck.
Whoa. So if I attack with 5 characters, defeat their 2 defenders using only 2 of my guys, my remaining 3 characters each cause an extra card discard. That's 3 extra cards gone from their deck.
Exactly. On top of the damage dealt by the characters who actually won fights, it's a massive advantage for the attacker.
Yeah, that really encourages you to attack with superior numbers, even if some of your attackers are weaker diamond cards. Just having bodies left over nets you a huge deck depletion advantage.
It perfectly encapsulates the strategic balance. You need high-power, high-damage characters to win key fights. But you also need sufficient numbers, often cheap diamond cards, to secure those breakthrough discards and accelerate the path to a decking victory.
So that's the core game established by MDM, JC, and BN. Stats, unique rules, basic game text, the battle system. It's complex, but manageable. But as we hinted, things didn't stay this way for long. The next wave of expansions. Oh boy.
The complexity curve steepened dramatically. We moved from refining the core engine to bolting on entirely new subsystems, minigames, essentially.
First up was Duel of the Fates in November 2000. And the big new mechanic was right there in the title, dueling.
This was a genuine game within a game, a completely separate combat resolution mechanic.
Initially, it was limited, right? Only Jedi, Sith, or maybe Aura Singh with a lightsaber could start a duel.
Correct. It was initially restricted to characters wielding lightsabers against other specific character types, but that was quickly errated, simplified, to allow a dueling character to challenge any opposing character at the same location.
Making it a much more versatile tool. And then came the Padres set.
Boonta Eve Padres, September 2001. If dueling was a minigame, this was practically a different game entirely, stapled onto the side. It introduced the objective card.
The Boonta Eve Classic Objective. It started in play, separate from the 3 planets.
Correct. And it offered a completely alternative way to win. Complete 3 laps of the Padres before your opponent. Forget planet control, forget decking them in the traditional sense.
So how did you race? You needed pilots and pod racers.
Yes. Deploy a pilot and their matching pod racer card to the objective.
Okay, dueling, pod racing. And the last one from that era, Reflections. More complexity.
Reflections, July 2001. It offered incredible statistical efficiency and action advantage, drastically lowering the deck building cost of having permanent weapons in play. They were extremely powerful.
So yeah, the game went from MDM's simple stats and rules to JC's uniqueness, BN's game text, and then boom, dueling minigames, pod racing objectives, combo cards. It escalated fast.
It certainly did, which really underscores how solid that initial framework from MDM, JC, and BN had to be to even support such radical additions later on.
And through it all, whether you were carefully counting counters in MDM or figuring out dueling blocks in .f, the core appeal, the reason people got into it, that stayed the same. You got to remember the slogan.
Yes. The call to action.
Collect, play, trade, feel the force. That was a mantra.
So, recapping our deep dive today. Young Jedi started with elegant simplicity. The 6x10 rule, power versus damage, the 3-planet control. It was clean.
But JC added crucial layers with uniqueness and stacking, and BN brought in game text, forcing much deeper strategic thinking.
Setting the stage perfectly for the wild, meta-bending complexity of the later expansions we just touched upon.
Right. So the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
The strict 6x10 deck building was clearly designed to enforce balance, right? To make sure light and dark sides had a roughly equal mix of tools.
Yet, what we saw in those very first tournaments, especially with MDM, was that the raw statistical efficiency of just a few key cards like Aura Singh costing so little for so much power could completely dominate.
It suggests that, at least initially, clever character statting and costing by the designers had more impact on game balance than the rigid structural framework of the deck itself. Individual card power could overwhelm the system. Efficiency was the first king.
Something to think about.
Join us next time as we fully immerse ourselves in that later complexity. We'll conduct a rigorous mechanical analysis of Duel of the Fates, Boonta Eve Padres, and Reflections, the sets that truly turn Young Jedi into a multi-layered tactical puzzle box.
You won't want to miss it. Until then, this has been the Deep Dive Protocol.